What's going on, everybody? Welcome to my channel and my review of No Man's Sky. Before we get into it, I'd like to mention that this is technically my second review of No Man's Sky. I initially put out a review about 2 weeks ago, but ultimately took it down because I reviewed the game in an incredibly negative light, and I did not want that to be a reflection of my channel and the content that I put out. I created this channel to be a place of honest discussion, and that review was not an indication of that. I felt that it was completely dishonest, not only to the developers, but myself and to the content that I make. So, with all that being said, after 40 plus hours of playtime, with obviously many more to come, my opinion of the game has completely changed. I wanted to give the game a lot more time with things such as finishing the main stories, upgrading freighters, exocrafts, the suit, starship, multi-tool, maybe craft a Corvette, but I was getting to the point of the game where I was starting to kind of run into the same iteration of planets, kind of getting the same roles. Nothing really new or crazy was beginning to happen. So I felt that I was kind of getting to the point where I was able to give the game an honest review. So this is where we are. For starters, when I first made my review, my initial takeaway with the game is that the way the game implements the tutorial in the beginning is not very great at all. As a beginner player, I kind of felt that the game was trying to rush you through your first impression. And I kind of felt that way once I went through my first black hole, because you spawn on your first planet and the game's kind of like getting you to get off that planet as soon as possible. And the game is kind of just making you jump and bounce between the planets without any real meaning other than to progress. And it didn't really start to slow down until you built your first base. Once you built your first base, I kind of felt like the game was starting to do a pretty good job at introducing you to the way the game works, right? I mean, obviously, when you build your base, you need resources. When you need resources, you need to explore. When you explore, you then need to start you making use of your multi-tool and the different tools around you. So I felt up to that point, it was kind of rushed, but once you got to the base, it kind of slowed down, and then you was kind of getting a sense of, okay, here's the gameplay loop, right? But all that once again kind of stopped when you get the quest where you have to make like almost, let me just throw it out there because I really don't remember the exact number, but it was like 200,000 plus units. And the game really didn't teach you how to make the money to do that. It kind of just told you to go out. The game presents like a log you can use, and it gives you just kind of boilerplate information as to how to do it. But to give you a sense of how it feels as a beginner player, when you have to deal with the monstrosity of how big this game is and what you have to actually worry about doing in the game, this is how it feels. So in the game, there were 3 different types of currencies. You have units, which is essentially the game's main currency that's used to buy and trade on the Galactic Network, which is the station that you find in space stations in each system. And it's kind of the economy that you can use in the game to, buy Corvette parts, to buy materials and stuff that you can use. You can use units to buy new ships, new freighters, and exosuit upgrades through the exosuit hologram vendor. And I'll explain that later because that was another thing that I was confused about. You can buy new tools, and you can buy multi-tool. You can buy a multi-tool inventory upgrade, which is incredibly expensive through the multi-tool vendor. And then there's outpost vendors on different planets. You can buy frigates to add to your freighter team that you can send out on expeditions, which I'll get to again, but that's pretty much the main bulk of what you can do with units. Then you have nanites. Nanites are used to buy upgrade modules and blueprints from the anomaly, which I will get into later. Different vendors on space stations for the exocrafts, starship, exosuit, and multi-tools. You buy modules with nanites. And you can also use nanites to buy customization options for your freighter. You can kind of think of nanites as like a tier 2 currency type in RPG games. I'm not going to say that they're finite, but they're not nearly as common as units. And then the third, you have Quicksilver, which Quicksilver is primarily used to buy customization options from the Quicksilver vendor on the anomaly. From what I can really tell, Quicksilver has really no other use other than these options that are presented. And it seems to be that the only way to recruit Quicksilver is by completing expeditions, which, to my knowledge, and I really haven't done them, are just limited time events to show off the game's new updates or Nexus missions, which are PvE mission that you can sign up for in the anomaly at the Nexus mission board. Now, with all of those three currencies said, the main one that was very confusing to figure out how to make was nanites. Because while units come and go, nanites are basically like your main currency to basically progress you as a character when it comes to all the tools available to you. And there are different ways that you can do to make nanites, but it's really, really very hard to figure out how to make them. And the game really does do a bad job of teaching you how to make these nanites. For instance, I think one of the only ways that you can really make decent nanites is once you get to the anomaly, you have two vendors that you can go back and forth from on the anomaly on a daily basis to make very decent amount of nanites. You can make other nanites by kind of trading your exploration information in the discovery log page. You can find nanites in outposts and stuff, but you do not make nanites nearly as much as you would if you were to go to these two vendors in the anomaly. There's other different types of currencies as well that really isn't part of like that main tree of currencies. Like you have like these technology modules that you can use for at the construction at the little construction vendor guy or thing to buy different modules to be up from for base building. And that's pretty much it. So with that being said, you have all these different currencies and you have all different ways to utilize them. Imagine how a new player would feel when all of that is unloaded onto them within the first 2 hours of the game. To me, it's incredibly overwhelming, and it's like being a new player in WoW or PoE, constantly asking yourself, how the hell do I get to this point? Meaning progress further. What the hell do I do to get there? And what the hell does it all mean? And No Man's Sky, in similar fashion, follows suit and creates an incredibly convoluted way to introduce these new items. When it comes to these currencies and how to make them, the game does provide some type of guide, but it just doesn't help. It like I said before, it just kind of gives a very boilerplate how-to, and it ultimately just leaves you as a player to have to go look up a fucking YouTube video to figure out what you can do. And it really took me about 30 to 40 hours of playing the game to really get comfortable to know, okay, I can just go here, and I will 100% make this. So once I got to this mission of having to buy the 100K or get the 200K units to purchase the microprocessors to build my warp drive, I believe it is, I really did feel stonewalled. And that was my biggest complaint in the early review. And some things that I would change to basically rewrite that entire phase tutorial is I would leave everything else as it is until you get to the mission where you must build your warp drive, which is the mission that tells you you have to go make the 100k to 200k units. I would get to the mission where you have to build the warp drive, and then I would keep in where you have to craft chromatic metals and buy microprocessors. The main thing that I would change is once you are given the prompt to make the units, you are then able to speak to the missions agent on a space station to take on missions to earn units, or you can speak to the cartographer vendor to trade navigation data for distress signals to find crashed ships that you can take and scrap to make units. The use of the cartographer vendor was honestly, once I learned, and this is one thing that I had to look up, but once I learned that you can speak to the cartographer vendor and trade your nav data for distress signals to find and crash ships, that's kind of when the game changed, because I was like, okay, now I can start making some serious money. And for those that don't know, when you play the game, you get this, I can just call it currency, called navigation data. There's a vendor on each space station that's called the cartographer vendor, and you can trade this navigation data for different types of navigation charts, whether they be ancient ruins, distress signals, what are the other ones? Settlements, abandoned buildings. You kind of get the drift. They kind of give you places of interest on the dot within your system, or if you're on planet, within your planet, for places that you can go to either get new blueprints, nanites, etc., etc. You kind of get where I'm going. But the biggest perk of the distress signal is that it allows the player to have to go and search the planet they're on, or search the planets in their system. So that's already a +1 for forcing the player to go out and explore. And it gives the player a very nice head start when it comes to units, because if you go find a ship, the starting ship that the game gives you is honestly really good. It is honestly very, very, very good. And you can make the ship even better by upgrading it with very decent upgrade modules. So when you go and find these distress signals and you come across a crashed ship, you can take the ship for free. You can then go to any space station that you want, summon the ship on the space station, and scrap it. A lot of these ships, they're trade goods that you get from scrapping them. You can make between like 2 to 4 million units by scrapping these ships. That is a very, very nice start as a new player. But the game doesn't teach you that. So if you get to this point where you have to learn how to make money, I really, really, really do think that the game should let you know that this is an option for you to be able to go and do. And when it comes to the missions vendor, when you're in like this very first kind of tutorial phase, you cannot talk to any of the fucking vendors. None. Which is very, very, very frustrating, because everything's there, but you can't do nothing with it. Which then leads to the thought process of, okay, what the hell do I do? But with the missions vendor, I don't see why you can't take a mission from the missions vendor. It kind of just opens up at some point in the game. It just opens up to where you can talk to them. But the missions vendor is also good because it once again gives the player, and once again forces the player to have to go explore. And the missions vendor has such good variety. You can hunt pirates, which then, force the player to fly around and engage in space combat. Force you to have to go fight sentinels with the boltcaster, which is another perk of having to go explore, because it would then force you to go to a planet that you may or may not have explored. There's another mission where you can go and drop off goods, which then would force the player to warp to a different planet or warp to a different system, explore a different planet, and go and, explore different POIs. Like, there's so much things to do, and there's so many ways for the game to force you as a player to go and explore, but the game just does a terrible job at kind of opening that up to you. So, so then once you get past that initial tutorial and you build your warp drive, and it's kind of crazy that the game does it like this, right? Because once you get your warp drive, the game then tells you to go and find your first black hole. Once you go through your first black hole, oh my God. Once you go through your first black hole, you're literally opened up to a full-blown, high-scaled fucking fight in space between a freighter and pirates. Your mission then is to help the civilian freighter fight off the pirates. When you finish killing off all the pirates, then the freighter captain tells you, "Hey, come aboard." When you go aboard, you are literally given the freighter. You are given the freighter, and the world is literally yours. Literally. This is where your drive to upgrade, craft, and just overall explore really kicks off, and you finally understand why the game is so fun. So the developers really do have to go back to the drawing board with this tutorial, and I will literally die on this fucking hill. And also keep in mind, everything that I just went through to explain is given to you within the first 3 to 4 hours of the game, which honestly is a long time for a game. I mean, if you bought this game on Steam, you have 2 hours to play the game and to make a decision as to whether or not you want to refund the game. And this game, it takes you about 3 to 4 hours to really get into the good meats to be like, okay, this game's cool. You can kind of compare it to being a One Piece fan. Somebody says, "Oh yeah, dude, go watch One Piece." It takes the first 100 fucking hours for it to get good, and it's a 1,200 episode show. This is what the game felt like with the way that this tutorial is developed. So this then led me into why my mind changed so significantly. So once you crash the warp drive, you're introduced to your black hole, you fire through your black hole, and then you pop out on the other side with this fucking banger of you have to fight space pirates. You're given your first fucking freighter. It is so cool. And you're given the freighter for free, which is the biggest thing. And honestly, it's really cool. So once I got to this, that's when everything hooked me. So let me explain to you why getting the freighter for free is such a big deal and why it opened up to me. The freighter, outside of the Corvette, because honestly, everybody got on to No Man's Sky because of the Corvette, and I'll get to the reasons why. But I literally joined like a week before the Corvette came out, so I was kind of already in the nitty-gritty of the game. I didn't want to restart. So, yeah, I kind of played the game from fucking scratch. But back to the point, the freighter is literally your base in space. You can craft storage room to use that you can use anywhere in the system. And when you craft your first base and you build a storage base, that first storage is also linked to the very first storage that you build on your freighter. So it's essentially a universal storage that you can use. And then the way that the storages are kind of presented, they're all numbered from 0 to whatever they are. I don't know. But if you build a storage on your base, that's 0, and you build the storage on your freighter, that's 0, and you build the storage in your Corvette, that's 0, they all interconnect. Same thing if you with 1, 2, 3, they all interconnect. So that's your first taste of like a worldwide, galactic-wide storage container. You can craft a teleporter on your freighter that allows you to warp anywhere. So instead of having to go to a space station to teleport to your base or to a different space station, whatever, you can literally do it from your freighter. You can send frigate ships. Really quick about frigates, you have combat frigates, mining frigates, expedition frigates. What other trade? You have, a plethora of different frigate types that you can send. And when you send these ships on expeditions, these are ways for you to make passive units, modules, even blueprints. So passive income you can make just by literally setting it and letting it go, and it'll come back. I think I made like 1 to 2 million units passively just by letting these things go, which is really big. Again, you can craft specialty rooms on these freighters, such as the system scanner. The system scanner is a tool that you can use on your freighter that if you were to arrive in a newly discovered system and nobody online has discovered it, you can literally use this room and it will scan the entire system for you without you having to manually get into your starship and fly to each system manually, look at it, hit the scan button to scan it. That will literally do it for every planet, one shot. You're able to craft rooms that allow you to summon your exocrafts from anywhere, on anywhere your system. It's a hub for your space, for your starship collection to be stored. The freighter being unlocked and it being for free is the best and the most valuable asset I ever see in the entire game. I literally constantly use it. You can literally be on planet and you can get a module that allows you to basically long range access to your freighter. You can spawn it on your planet, summon your exocrafts there, use them anywhere, while also farming and sending the mats up to your storage. It's literally so fucking awesome. And the way that it's actually designed, it is literally like you have a living, breathing crew on there. You have NPCs that just walk around. They, give you, they acknowledge the way that they're feeling. They're actually working. You have different ships coming in and out that you can trade with to buy. It is super, super, super cool. But with all that being said, the only con that I have when it comes to the freighter is that it is very, very tedious and expensive to upgrade. In order to upgrade your freighter, you have to find freight upgrade modules similar to the tech upgrade modules you find on the world to upgrade your ship. And those are very, very few and far between. When I mean few and far, I think I've only found maybe 5 or 6 within the 20 hours that I've had the freighter. Devs, just make them more common. It's literally all I ask. That's it. That's all I ask. And then if you want the only other way to upgrade your freighter is to buy a new one, and those, if you're a new player, are very expensive. Like I'm talking like 50 mil for a new fucking freighter. That's expensive, dude. That is expensive. So, as I was meaning the logic of once you get your freighter, in terms of wanting to upgrade, explore, craft, blah, blah, blah. And actually, wants to make you upgrade you more. Well, we would definitely need more tools and stuff like that, which is where the anomaly comes from. Like I said, I was going to go into the anomaly. Here it is. The anomaly is basically the game's multiplayer hub zone. You can essentially spawn this place anywhere, and it is basically a mobile space station. You can spawn it anywhere. It costs nothing to spawn it, and it is the main hub that the game's players can interact with each other and make use of the other vendor stations that you can use to purchase modules for your exocraft summons, your starship upgrades, exosuit multi-tool, blah, blah, blah. Plethora of different crafting types, base crafting types, whatever. The biggest buys from the anomaly are the exocrafts that include the roamer. Think of it like the moon rover. You can also purchase the Minotaur, which is the game's fucking mech suit that you can use that allows you to walk across really, really, really harsh and ugly planetary effects, such as like nuclear storms, excessive heat, You kind of get where I'm going. And then you have the Nautilus, which is the game's submarine. The game has a fucking submarine. And that also allows you to explore planets that are mainly water with deep, deep, deep underwater caves, huge oceans. And to be honest, I really didn't upgrade these a ton because I'm not going to say they're expensive, but in order to buy modules to upgrade these, you need nanites. And as I said before, nanites are kind of hard to make. Honestly, they are kind of hard to make. My main source is by using the two vendors. I think their names are Helios and Ares. I think, don't quote me on it, but it's two of them. But something that you can do with these is that you can buy modules such as like a mining beam or weapon beam, and you can use these to mine for resources and basically as on planet storage if you need them. I know I kind of sidetracked on to explain what the exocrafts are, but going back to the anomaly, the anomaly is very, very, very cool. And fortunately enough for me, the other day I was playing off stream on my Steam Deck, and some guy blessed me with 600 million units worth of trade goods. Whoever that guy was, God bless you. Thank you. But with basically the anomaly being your main hub and your main multiplayer hub, that's really all it's for. You have a Quicksilver vendor that you can use to buy your customization options that I meant. The anomaly is also a place where is it the anomaly? No, I don't. I think you get the advanced mining beam when you come, but you can buy other really cool modules such as a Aquajet booster, which essentially allows your standard starship to land on water-based planets and it'll essentially just hover over, which is really, really, really cool to see. Things like that, kind of specialty modules to allow you to use different tools and ways to go at exploring different planets. So, kind of get the overall gist. My biggest con and where I can see improvements when it comes to anomalies is the performance. Especially when playing on Steam Deck, it is incredibly bad sometimes. Especially when it comes to the stuttering. There'd literally be some times where I'd get on the fucking anomaly and my shit is literally at 2 FPS scan. It's literally like a fucking PowerPoint. And if you have too many Corvettes or too many players on it at one time, it's really, really, really bad. Really, really, really bad. Hopefully it's an easy fix, but yeah. Other than that, the anomaly is great. Very, very easy to explore. Very easy to navigate. Everything's kind of just right there. So, no other complaints with it. So, now that we've essentially moved past, the biggest areas of the game's gameplay loop and core POIs, that will lead me into one of the reasons why people play the game, which is the game being a massive universe and the planet and world design. So, despite the game being known for its infinite procedure generation of its universe, I literally cannot explain enough how much I appreciate the magnitude of variety in planets and their biodiversity. This is the one piece of the game that really, really, really did impress me. And I know I mentioned that I was kind of, beginning to run into the same iterations of planets as it came to design, variables, effects, etc. But, that was after 30 to 40 hours of playtime. That's a long fucking time. Think about it. I mean, that's playing 8 hours a day for a week straight. Now, I didn't do that, but that's the amount of time. Basically a full-time fucking full-time work week worth of playing. So, these different iterations of planets include, I found this planet that was like these towering, luscious green mountain peaks, similar to like a Chinese mountainscape that you would see, think of like Mr. Pandaria in World of Warcraft, which in my opinion is the most beautiful expansion that the game has. It was literally a 1-to-1 replication of that. It was beautiful. You have a planet where the land is incredibly scarce, but it is surrounded by just never ending ocean, which is where that submersible vehicle came into play, and the water jet landing tools. You have planets that create, excessive scorching heat temperature, and then on top of that, you have these planets where it's just volcanoes, just ranges of volcanoes that are just constantly fucking exploding. You have a planet that was incredibly radiated and suffers from nuclear storms. Think of it like, if you ever played the game Stalker, think of it like just one giant Stalker zone emission. Just absolutely crazy. I was literally stuck in a storm for probably about 10 minutes, and it literally was just like I was playing Stalker. It was so good. Honestly, to be honest, I think that planet was probably one of the best designed planets, despite it being procedurally generated, because everything just meshed so well together. You had, the emission storms coming through, and then when it all cleared up, everything just really looked dead and decayed, and it was really, 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 really cool. I was really impressed. But unfortunately, it was a fucking pain in the ass to explore, because as soon as I got out, I was literally getting cooked with radiation. And fortunate enough for me, I think it was like my second or third system I came across, I found an abandoned paradise planet, which, obviously I had to make my base on. So, I think everybody's main goal in this game is to find a paradise planet. That's all I see when on social media. Fortunately enough, I was able to find one. Paradise planet is literally, what the name intends. Everything's super friendly, everything's super pretty. Weather's damn near perfect. You don't have to deal with no harsh effects, nothing negative about paradise planets. And then you have all these planets that just have deep, unsettling caves with, these carbon crystals that are coming out. It is really, 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 really cool to go and see all these planets. And on top of that, you have your starship that you're able to just seamlessly travel in and out of these planets. So I applaud the developers for developing an algorithm that creates these planets, if they're even, generated that way. And the optimization efforts it comes with having a starship seamlessly coming in and out of those planets, and being able to warp between system to system, and just keeping everything just running so smooth. It really just felt very, very, very good to do and play when it comes to exploring these planets, seeing these planets, jumping from system to system with the starship. Honestly, it is. I would honestly probably say it's perfect. It is perfect, and it's very fortunate that it is perfect, because it is basically what the whole entire game rides on. Let's be honest. The game rides on those variables, and they literally knocked it out of the park. So, with that being said, let's move away from the main draws, and let's just get into the core and the mechanics of the game, starting off with survival and crafting mechanics. This is a place where I really do feel like the game can benefit from improving, because a lot of it still seems to be a work in progress. For starters, I played the game on normal difficulty. So all my opinions come from playing the game on normal difficulty. I know some people play on survival, or what is that one that's called? The crafting one or whatever, where you can just basically do whatever you want with no with no threshold. So with that being said, I feel that the systems in place are engaging. You're able to, tailor your suit, your tool, your ships, your exocrafts to fit your playstyle and endure any environment presented to you. Quick examples would be to be able to input an upgrade module in your multi-tool to help with beam cooling efficiency, or, upgrade modules to make your suit, upgrade modules to your exosuit to help with sprinting, jetpack usage to be more efficient, and to overall allow those things to just cost less. or starship modules to allow your thrusters to recharge slowly via solar energy, which would also offset costs by having to manually fuel, or booster your modules to decrease fuel costs for boost drive and warp drive. Modules also have different tier or classes, whatever you want to call them, starting from C to S. There are also X-class modules that you can get, which are essentially dice rolls to have passes worse, to be able to have passes worse than C or better than an S. These basically for all you min-max nerds out there. Modules are obviously a great way to tell your experience for the better or for the worse, to make your gameplay experience your very own. With modules there to enhance your experience, like to just go ahead and dive even deeper to the bare bone mechanics. The game has a pretty deliberate way to make you as a player engage with this vital and crafting mechanics, such as having to manually refuel your life support, manually refueling your shield. I mean, I say that, but they do regen on its own, but it's there for you to be able to do it. Manually refueling your starship shield during fights, which is another shield that does refuel on its own, but you can speed up the process by just doing it yourself. Manually refueling your mining beams, crafting items within your inventory. By that I mean in order for you to craft, you have to open up your inventory, select an empty slot on there, craft the item, select another empty slot, craft that item, another empty slot, and then craft the item using those last two items you just made. Incredibly tedious, and I will get to that later. Manually having to refuel your starship, freighter, and exocrafts. These items have different areas where you have to refuel, specifically your starship. You have to refuel your thruster, your booster, your warp drive. So now you have 3 different fuel types you have to worry about, which, is kind of a lot, to be honest. And then, manually refueling your power generators wherever your base are, which honestly, I applaud the developers for keeping the bases in, but the only reason why you would have a base is for a quest. Once you get the fucking freighter or the starship, you can basically leave that bitch and never go back. Basically what I did. So, with all these items that create a sense of engagement and creating a satisfying experience, because let's be honest, it is pretty satisfying to have to go back and craft different things, especially with the way that the game presents it. But I do think that there are a lot of improvement that can happen, and here are just the ones that I have come across. Which, to start, having some type of mechanic to manually refuel life support systems. Not only is this aspect tedious, but when you're neck deep in exploration, whether you're on planet, off planet, or combat, it kind of becomes something that you forget. It would be very nice if there was an upgrade for your exosuit that would automatically synthesize the oxygen in your inventory to allow your life support system to refuel automatically instead of manually. Maybe they can have it if you reach a certain threshold of like 30 to 40% of life support left. It would then kick in for your oxygen to start auto-synthesizing to automatically heal you. We live in a game where you can plant a base anywhere in the galaxy and teleport to a fucking space station across the entire system. Why can't we automatically heal ourselves? It's weird. The biggest one, in my honest opinion, having a search bar function in your inventories for better crafting and loot management. Currently, in the game's state, the game has no system in place for search in any of your inventories. Why? Who the fuck knows? You have so many different elements, so many different materials, so many miscellaneous items, such as modules, ship parts, upgrade modules, whatever. You would think the game would have it, but no. As much as I love the game, is an incredible pain in the fucking ass having to manually manage your storage across different platforms, meaning your freighter, bases, and Corvette storage, and not being able to search through them. A lot of the thumbnails for the different materials and items look very, very, very similar. And when you're like neck deep into exploring and stuff like that, it really does become a pain because it really does it interrupts the flow of the game for you to have to manually look for all these different items by just basically taking your mouse and going over them. Okay, what is it? What is it? What is it? Versus just simply being able to search carbon or ionized carbon or cobalt or copper or something. I really do think the game would benefit from having a search. Which then leads me into the game having a dedicated crafting page or just simply increasing the size of the craft window. Where the game stands, the game really does need either a dedicated page or just a bigger craft window. I play on a 32-inch monitor, and the craft window is literally, if you play the game and you think of like a 6x6 grid, that's literally how big the window is. It is incredibly small, and then you have to manually press the down arrow to go through each page, and then you have to manually sort through your different inventories and then go through them with the down page. It is so bad. It is really, really, really bad. So having a dedicated crafting window to just do that, which would also help for you to, like, you know, if you was to go craft an item that required the nanotubes and the plates, instead of having to manually craft the tubes and the plates, having a crafting page would be like, okay, you have the material to do all of it. Just click this, craft it, boom, it's done. Don't have to manually craft each and individual item in your inventory. Take up slots, manage your storage, manage your inventory and your storage to just craft simply one item. Just do it from a page. It's done. Boom. Nothing else. The way that the game has it right now, it's terrible. It works, but it's terrible. Another one that I would like to suggest would be having the ability to use, and I really forgot the name of it, but the visor to scan planets, having the ability to use that visor while piloting your starship. I don't see why this couldn't be a feature, because I mean, like, I don't see any animation of when you activate your visor, but if you're piloting a ship, just activating your visor and looking around, why can't you do that while flying? Having to explore a planet, land, get out, scan, tag, get in your ship, launch again using thrusting fuel, launch again, fly to it, go down, get it, scan again. It's tedious. It's tedious. It can be looked at as a nitpick, but it's tedious. Or having the ability to at least make use of the Starship scanner to allow the scanner to find a POI or the materials within, like, I don't know, 200 to 300 meter radius or something. That would be nice. And then another would be having a search function in the discovery page to filter your different world types for materials, such as Paradise Nuclear salvageable, especially salvageable scrap. Being able to filter throughout these planets would help when you need specific materials, especially salvageable scrap. Getting into it, salvageable scrap is basically used to, when you go to planets of salvageable scrap, you find these salvageable scraps, and these scraps are basically parts that you can trade at the Corvette vendor for advanced parts for more pieces to craft your Corvette. So having a way to filter for those planets would be nice. I know the game's meant for exploring and all that stuff, so it's like, you know, it doesn't need to be there. It's just a nice QOL to be able to have. And then lastly, it would be the combat. Yes, the game does have combats. You can dogfight other starships, fight Sailor Machine on the planets. The only thing I can say is, like, it's there. There's really nothing to write home about. But it can be improved. It can definitely be improved. So, I mean, maybe it's a placeholder, something to come. Like, some of the nitpicks I have is like, why does the Bullcaster only fire in burst fire mode? The game would probably benefit from like a side dash, especially when you have those dogs that shoot the laser at you. The only way you can do is like move this side. Like having a dodge would, my opinion, probably make the flow of the combat just work even better. And then the enemy AI is poor. I mean, they all bulk up. It's basically just shooting. Like they all bulk up. Sometimes like a triangle. Shoot him, you kill him. It's whatever. It's basically just target practice. So yeah, and I've read it. I've read that a lot of people have can agree that the combat does need to be improved a good bit. So hopefully future updates they'll greatly improve that. So yeah, I mean, while a lot of these might just seem like nitpicks or something, I really do think the game would benefit from having these QOL functions. Everything in the game works, right? But it can definitely be better. Especially when you're locked in, having to, stop in your inventory, search, manually go through each individual item to find that you may overlook. It can definitely be improved. So, maybe if a dev checks it out or whatever, bring it to the drawing board. These are items and places that can definitely be improved. So, like, I don't know, maybe instead of releasing giant updates that release new mechanics and functions, maybe take some time out to improve the ones that you have in place. I'm coming up on the end of the review, and I'd like to just mention that some of the things I didn't really talk about in a review would be like the base building. It works, nothing to write off about. You have people out there that are super creative. You can use a space station or even use a teleporter to go and check out these houses or buildings or whatever bases that are nearby. It's nothing. And then the Corvette. As I said before, I've been playing the game offline a good bit. And, a random player blessed me with 600 mil worth of trade goods to be able to do. While I was playing the game myself, the goal was to try to get around 50 mil to start crafting a Corvette, just to give me a little something so now I can talk about it more. But since the guy gave me over 500 million units, obviously I did the smart thing and I built one. And I can say that right now it is fucking awesome. It has definitely replaced the Corvette for being my go-to. The freighter. The only thing that I use a freighter now for is for more storage, because you can craft a lot of the storage stuff. Expeditions and really the teleporter. It's another base in space, but instead it's like, crammed down to just being you. Just you. So it's essentially your starship and you can walk around on it. It's awesome. You can refine stuff on it. You can cultivate plants and fauna on it. You can craft storage for it. You can just walk around and hang out with your buddies. You can exit the pilot. You can exit the pilot seat in space and spacewalk. It's really fun. The main benefit, honestly, is when you're going on planet, you can get out the pilot seat and jump off. Get what you got to get. Beam back up to it and just take off. No fuel being used. Yeah, it is awesome. The biggest problem with it, to be honest, though, is if it wasn't for me getting that 600 million, it would have taken me a lot longer to get the ship that I got. It is a massive grind, especially in normal difficulty, to be able to get a decent ship. If I have to put a number value on it, it's probably about 50 mil. You probably need a decent hefty 50, maybe 100 mil to really build yourself a nice ship. Yeah. Now, granted, there's an expedition that new players can do that'll basically just give you one, but as I said before, I was kind of knee deep in the game already, and I didn't want to start from scratch all for ship. So, and I'm pretty thankful for myself that I didn't do that, because I probably would have spoiled myself and not do the things that I did and learn the things that I learned if I was just given that shit. So I'm thankful I didn't go that way. So, that being said, I think, I can come to peace and agree that this game is definitely one of the biggest comebacks in gaming history. I was in high school when this game released back in 2016, and it was a fucking joke. It really was. We fucking clowned my friend for even buying it. It was pathetic. When on my first view, I gave the review a 6 out of 10, only because the exploration felt pretty good, but I did not know what else I was in store for while playing it. And after my new experiences, the game jumped up to a solid 8. Solid, hard 8. If the game can improve on the items that I discussed in my review earlier, it would definitely be a 9 out of 10. I would highly recommend this game to anybody who's just looking to chill, explore. If you have a knack for just space like me, like I love anything space, anything cosmic. The game, everything that you see the game has, the game does well. And it does well enough for you to have a fantastic time for hundreds of hours. And you can have all of it for what I think the game goes on sale a lot of times, like $24, $25. So for less than $30, you can have the fucking time of your life just hanging out, whether by yourself, with the boys or girls, exploring space, chilling. You cannot go wrong with buying the game in its current state. Especially once you get past that initial tutorial. And then, when it comes to tutorial, maybe I'm just fucking dumb. Maybe that's what it could have been, perhaps. But that's how I felt. But you can't go wrong with the game. So you will definitely get your money worth. I highly advise anybody to play this game. It is a fantastic time. And yeah, so that was my review of the game. If there's anything else that I missed, or anything else that I didn't go through, or anything else that I didn't mention, please comment. I appreciate anybody coming by, whether you liked it or disliked it. I'm always welcome for feedback. As I said before, I really did feel bad, and I really did not like that initial review. So if you did see it, my apologies. It was very dishonest, and that is not the type of environment I want to create. So once again, thanks for all of you coming. Please like it or subscribe. I do appreciate anything, and I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.